As the stories you're about to hear will show, mental wellness is not something to brush aside. It's vital to check in on your mind just as you would your body. We all fantasize about where we'll be at 20, 30, 40, but real life rarely follows that neat blueprint. You might land far from the career you envisioned, or feel like you're treading water while everyone else swims ahead. Admitting that can be tough. Seeking help even tougher. Therapy can seem like something other people do, until you realize it's not about being broken. It's about gaining insight into yourself and carving a healthier path forward. That's why today's sponsor, Mindful Space, exists. In just a few minutes, you fill out a questionnaire, and within days, you're paired with a licensed counselor who fits your needs. Not working? Swap to someone new anytime at no extra charge. With thousands of 5-star reviews and a rock-solid reputation, Mindful Space is there when you need it. So here's what happened to me. I'm now 20, but back in my final year of high school, I started dating someone I'll call Lily. We met at our part-time job, always a risky move, I've learned. Even before we went out, Lily would linger at the shop just to watch me, eyes fixed on me whenever she thought I wasn't looking. A few months into it, her sweet side gave way to something much darker. Suddenly my life revolved around her. No free time for friends, hobbies, or even a quiet moment alone. Every hour she'd call or text, sometimes dozens of times in a row, until I answered. Miss one call, 20 follow UPS would explode into an argument, even if I'd just been in the bathroom. Trying to game online was impossible without triggering a meltdown. Eventually, I realized I had to end things, but Lily wouldn't let go. She'd show up after my shifts, then follow me to my car, blocking my door until I gave in and talked. One evening, exhausted, I sat in her car to placate her. She'd been threatening to drag me into court over some trivial spat, so I figured a quick talk was the lesser evil. As I tried to leave, she locked the door and clawed at my arm so hard the skin started to rend. I'd never before seen her resort to physical violence. Her face was pure hostility. Though I could have overpowered her, I tried calm words first. "Let me go." When she still clung on, I yanked her into the passenger seat just enough to break free, raced to my car, and sped home. I wish that was the end of it, but we lived just streets apart. That night, while I was gaming, I heard a tapping at the window. High on nerves, and admittedly a bit of weed, it sounded like part of my game. Then a soft voice calling my name. I recognized Lily's tone as it shifted from pleading to heated anger. Afraid to open my window, I tried to ignore her. She pounded until I couldn't take it, so I cracked the door to demand she leave. At first, she pleaded for her jacket back, then erupted at me when I refused. Then I saw movement by a tree in my yard, a hooded figure peeking out. Lily spotted me noticing them and lunged to grab my arm. Just as the stranger sprinted toward the window, instinct took over. I slammed the glass shut on Lily's wrist, then locked it before the other person reached it. I held up my phone, dialing 911. The two fled. Minutes later, officers arrived, took my statement, then left. No evidence, no arrests. I don't know whether they were planning worse things or just to intimidate me, but I count myself lucky I got away. My name is Emily, and I haven't really slept properly since last Tuesday. Not because I have insomnia, but because I no longer feel safe closing my eyes. That's what happens, I guess, when someone you trust turns out to be capable of something straight out of a psychological thriller. I ended things with my ex, Daniel, about 3 weeks ago. It wasn't a dramatic breakup, at least not at first. We'd been together just under a year. In the beginning, he was sweet, maybe a little too sweet. Constant check-ins, daily, "I miss you" texts, and those late-night calls that seemed romantic at first. Felt like real love, something rare, something I thought was a blessing. But gradually, his affection turned into control. He'd get irritated if I didn't respond fast enough. Sometimes he'd ask oddly specific questions like, "Did any guys look at you today?" Or, "Who did you smile at?" Once or twice, he showed up outside my work without telling me, just watching from across the street. When I was out with my friends, he'd appear out of nowhere, trying to get me to leave early. My friends stopped inviting him or even mentioning his name. They didn't trust him, and neither did I anymore. The final red flag was when he suggested I install a tracking app. Not the usual share your location thing, but a literal GPS tracker, just for emergencies, he said. That's when I snapped. I told him I was done. At first, he got emotional. Then nothing, just silence. The call ended with a strange heaviness in my chest, like I was waiting for something bad to happen. For a while, it was quiet. I blocked his number and threw myself into routine. Cooking, working out, trying to feel like myself again. But then came the messages. They started about a week after the breakup. Random texts from strange numbers. No names, just single-sentence notes. Vague, unsettling. I didn't reply to any of them, assuming it was spam. I blocked every number as it came. I didn't tell anyone, not even my closest friends. I convinced myself it was nothing, but then it moved beyond my phone. One night, I got up to use the bathroom and paused in the hallway. I thought I heard a soft noise coming from the front entrance, just barely audible. I froze. I'm not one to investigate noises in the dark. I get nervous being alone. That's part of why I liked being in relationships. I never had to be by myself, so I chalked it up to the heating system or something. Still, it didn't sit right with me. I've lived in this apartment for almost 2 years. First with my ex George and then Daniel. I know the sounds. That sound was new. I rushed back to my bed and pulled the blanket over myself like it was armor. A couple nights later, around 2 a.m., I woke up suddenly. I swear I heard the front door creak open. I wasn't dreaming. That sound jolted me awake. My heart was pounding. I texted my family group chat. I keep hearing weird noises at night. I'm kind of freaked out. No one responded, probably asleep. Eventually, I drifted off. That weekend, I returned from a short trip to visit my sister. As soon as I walked into my apartment, I could feel something was off. Nothing was missing, nothing broken, but the angles of the doors were wrong. I always leave them slightly ajar or fully shut, and now they were all wide open. There wasn't any airflow. The AC had been running steadily. I walked through each room, checking. My heart sank when I noticed the hallway closet was barely cracked open. That closet door never stays open. If I don't shut it all the way, it swings out wide. But this time it was just slightly open, like someone was hiding and didn't close it fully. I stared at the door for a full minute before pulling it wide open. Nothing, just the usual coats, shoes, and clutter. But that's when I knew I wasn't just being paranoid. That night, I pushed a chair under my bedroom door handle and slid a small kitchen knife under my pillow. I kept the lamp on. I don't know when I fell asleep, but I woke up to the faint sound of movement, just a shuffle. When I opened my eyes, the room was pitch black. The lamp was off. Worse, the door was wide open, even though I'd wedged it shut. I tried to calm myself. Maybe I imagined putting the chair there? Maybe I'd gotten up in my sleep? That thought dissolved when I saw something. A shape, low to the ground, at the end of my bed. I couldn't make it out at first, just a dark figure, still as stone. But then I saw the outline of hair, the slope of a forehead. It was someone's head, and just then I felt hands on my feet. I screamed, pure panic. I thrashed. I screamed until my lungs gave out. Then I heard his voice. Daniel. He shushed me, saying he just wanted to talk, that he wasn't there to hurt me. He clamped his hand over my mouth and said he'd let go if I promised to be quiet. I nodded. Once he moved his hand, the first thing I asked was how he got in. He calmly said he had copied my key when we were still dating, just in case something ever happened, he claimed. That realization hit me like a punch. He must have taken my keys at some point when I was asleep, had duplicates made without ever telling me. As I sat there frozen, I considered reaching for the knife under my pillow, but I didn't. I knew if I pulled it, I'd have to use it, and I wasn't sure I could. He kept talking in circles, repeating that he missed me, that he didn't come to hurt me. But it was clear he was trying to scare me into taking him back. And in that moment, I was so terrified that I agreed, just to get him out. I told him to give me a night to process. That seemed to work. He eventually got up and left. As soon as the door closed, I called the police. I said I believed someone was still inside just to ensure they came right away. When they arrived, I gave a full report. Later, I used it to file a restraining order. I had no physical proof of the break-in, but I had enough support from friends and digital messages to back it up. A detective eventually traced the fake numbers back to an anonymous texting app connected to his real number. That sealed it. The restraining order was granted. I moved out shortly after and stayed with my parents until I could get a new place. If I could leave anyone with advice, especially women, it's this: don't ignore the early signs. Possessiveness, control, manipulation, these things often spiral. If you feel unsafe, trust that instinct. I'll never forget the moment I woke up with him in my room. And I'll never forget the feeling of deciding whether or not I should pull a knife on someone I once said, "I love you" to. I dated Elena for about a year and a half. At first, she was easily one of the most intense people I'd ever met. Not in a bad way, she was magnetic, passionate, full of charm, and had this way of turning even the most mundane topic into something you wanted to hear about. Being with her felt like being pulled into another world. The beginning was great. She'd surprise me with little gifts, scribble handwritten notes and leave them on my bathroom mirror. And she never missed a night texting, "Good night." That level of devotion was endearing until it wasn't. Elena didn't do middle ground. Everything was either euphoric or a disaster. If I took 5 minutes too long to answer a text, she'd send a wave of messages, starting out concerned, then annoyed, then regretful. It was a slow build, not a sudden shift, so at first, I didn't see it as a problem. But then came the accusations. Like when I liked an old classmate's Instagram photo, someone I hadn't talked to in years. She said I was emotionally cheating. And when I told her something she did made me uncomfortable, she'd completely shut down. Not just go quiet, but sit in my apartment, staring at nothing, refusing to leave until I reassured her that everything was okay. The first time she showed up uninvited at my work, we were 6 months in. She brought coffee like it was a cute surprise, like we were in a romantic comedy. I brushed it off. But the second time she came because I missed a call. She sat in her car, crying, waiting for me to come outside. When I told her it wasn't okay, she just smiled and said, "You'd wait for me too, right?" I didn't know how to answer that. I kept making excuses, told myself it was just leftover trauma or fear of abandonment. I thought if I just kept proving I wouldn't leave, she'd settle. But the more I gave, the more she clung. Eventually, I had nothing left to give. I told her I couldn't do it anymore. She didn't yell or break down. She just stared at me, silent for what felt like forever. Then she nodded and said, "You think it's over, but it's not for me." It wasn't said like a threat, more like a statement of fact. I felt frozen. That night, I blocked her everywhere, changed my number, and asked my landlord if another unit was available. For a while, I thought I was in the clear. Then the letters started showing up. No stamps, no return addresses. Just my name, written in neat cursive on the envelopes, tucked between my door and the frame. I kept a few of them. The first one was sentimental, asterisk, "I miss the way you used to wake me up. I still sleep on your side of the bed," asterisk. The second one was unsettling, asterisk, "You always check the door 3 times before bed. You probably don't notice it, but I do," asterisk. The third made me pack a bag immediately, asterisk, "You wore your blue hoodie on Monday. The one with the hole in the sleeve. Might want to stitch that before it gets worse," asterisk. That was the same hoodie I wore during a solo grocery run across town. In the rain. I hadn't seen anyone I knew, but she'd seen me. That's when I knew distance wasn't going to fix this. So I took a job in Colorado. Told no one except my brother and close family. No address forwarding, no personal data linked to my new job, not even a real name on my mailbox. I wiped everything, got a new email, used encrypted apps, set up a P.O. box under a different name. And for a while, it worked. Months went by. I started to breathe again. I went on casual dates. I even laughed, felt human. Then, one weekend, I opened my P.O. box and there it was, Another envelope. My name. No stamp. No sender. Inside a Polaroid. It was me walking near my new apartment, taken from behind. Coffee in one hand, earbuds in. Snow on the sidewalk, mountains in the background. On the back, written in red ink. Asterisk, you slouch when you're tired. Asterisk, I packed again. Found a rental under the radar, paid cash. Smaller place, fewer people. Changed jobs again. Went fully remote. Told my manager it was a family emergency. Got a German Shepherd mix, big, loud, protective. Deleted everything online. Wiped all apps, social media. I disappeared. For nearly a year, I heard nothing. No notes, no photos, no signs of her. I almost believed I was free. Then one evening, I came home from walking the dog and found a sticky note on my front door. Yellow, red ink. It read, asterisk, I don't like the beard. Asterisk. My heart dropped. I'd only grown it out a few months earlier. Nobody had seen me with it, not in person. I shaved it off that night. Told myself it was coincidence. Until the next morning. Another note, this time under my windshield wiper. Just one word. Asterisk better. Asterisk. I went to the police. Filed a report. They told me unless there were threats or damage, nothing could be done. I asked about a restraining order. They said I'd need evidence she was physically near me. But I never saw her. I changed my routines. Triple-checked locks. Kept blinds closed. I hardly slept. Just lay there, waiting for the floor to creak. 2 weeks passed. No notes. I convinced myself maybe she'd planted them earlier and I'd only just noticed. But deep down, I knew better. Then one night, I jolted awake with this horrible feeling. Like someone had just stepped out of the room. I checked every door and window, even under the bed, like I was a scared kid again. Nothing. The next morning, taped perfectly to my front door, was a small envelope. Inside, a photo I hadn't seen in years. Me and Elena in a photo booth on the boardwalk. We were smiling, her head on my shoulder. But her eyes had been gouged out with something sharp. Not torn, asterisk pierced star. Like with a needle. I moved again. This time, not just across town. I left the city altogether. I found a remote cabin deep in the woods, miles into the mountains. Only one road in, surrounded by trees. I paid in cash, used an alias month-to-month lease. I left my old phone behind. Got a burner just for emergencies. Used a work-issued laptop on a VPN. No social media. Only my immediate family and one close friend knew where I was. I became a ghost. A whole month passed. No signs of her. I didn't even go into town except for the essentials. I started to think I'd finally escaped. Then, one night, I heard footsteps crunching through the snow around the cabin. My dog went berserk. In the morning, I found footprints circling the house, going from one window to the next. No notes, no markings, just those steps in the snow. I can't say for sure it was her, but who else could it have been? I packed everything and drove back to my hometown the same day. Now, I live in a house with 3 former military roommates. Big guys with medals on the walls and massive trucks in the driveway. If there's a house you don't mess with, this is it. And that's where I am now. But Elena, she's still out there. And I know this isn't over. Not really. She's dangerous to herself, to others. And I just wish someone in authority would care enough to step in before something irreversible happens.